Death at the gates again. Howling my name. Can't greet you today. I have a war to win.
Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Wolfenstein, the new Order Uber difficulty video walkthrough. This is chapter 16. This is Return to Death's Head's compound. And this is a 3-part video. It should really be 2 parts, but I've isolated the 3rd area for the final boss because I think it's going to be the video that, you know, everybody comes to see when it comes to this walkthrough, if indeed they see this walkthrough at all. Because the last boss is arguably one of the toughest encounters, just because you can die really fast sometimes. And this area right here before it is Gauntlet City. It is the longest string of enemies that you'll see in the game. And for the most, it's only tricky if you let your life get too low. But even if that happens, there's still so much shit everywhere. Oh, that was bad. Not too sure if that would have worked. It should have if I'd have hit it, but my knife skills are clearly too weak. But there is so much ammo, so much life, so much armor in these rooms that even if you struggle during the fights, you should be able to get back up to a semblance of survivability. And the hardest thing about these areas is the heavies. Undoubtedly, these guys here. The gun he's using, it might as well just be called the Armor Raper, because that's exactly what it does. And I come back down here after, I think I took him out with a big focused shot to see if there was any more armor that I couldn't pick up, and also to see if there was an area where I could charge my weapon. Because somebody noted and pointed it out that they were surprised I weren't picking up all the upgrades for the LKW, or the laser gun, or whatever it's called. And the reason for this, guys, is it's meant to be a streamlined A to B walkthrough, where I don't really dally in the side quests or the puzzle solving aspects of the game. Because that's one of the things that people are going to discover on themselves, and if they get stuck on them, I'm sure there'll be, you know, isolated small videos on how to solve them. This is to help you get through the game and help you achieve the difficulty. And one of the cool things about not having those fully upgraded laser weapon with a recharging battery and all that kind of good stuff is I'm not overly using it or relying on it in a way that nobody else can. I have pretty much the base upgrades for it, so if you're following these videos and you're watching what I do and you're just trying to copy the same strategy, you know, using the cover and just playing intelligently, really, it's pretty simple stuff for the most. It's never going to be a situation where you don't have the capacity to do so because of your weapon, as I use far too many grenades on that crazy guy. But you'll notice I have 40 life and there is a shrapnel shotgun guy. So I run all the way back here and I clip on this bit of floor, and it turns out to be a very good piece of cover. And if you're having trouble in this first room and you don't want to be as, you know, kind of gung-ho as I just was, lure them to this area and use this piece of cover, because I barely got shot here and they were shooting at me. It was just, you know, the angle of the ascent on this hill, maybe some of the invisible influence of what we can't see was shielding me from the pellets. So very, very useful. But if you are a bit low, before you go into the centre of the room, you can run directly across from where I am now, and there is like a side room that's filled with goodies. The majority of this video is me picking shit up because there is so much stuff to grab. Like in here there's, you know, there's rockets, there's life, there's grenades, there's a ton of stuff to help you get through. And as much as I think this is an intimidating area, I don't think it's that challenging. And I'm saying that, obviously, coming from the perspective as playing very defensively, keeping myself in cover, not being a crazy guy running around, running and gunning. If you're going to play that way, it's obviously going to be significantly more challenging. And I just got a funny comment on my Dark Souls 2 walkthrough, basically saying, you know, anybody can beat the game using magic, now make a guide where you do nothing but melee only. And this person obviously has never watched any of those videos in that walkthrough, because the entire point of that walkthrough, as I expressed during it, is it's intended to give very easy strategies for players who don't have the time to invest in the skill to beat the game in any other means. So it's the easiest, less skill dependent strategies that I could find to help people get through Dark Souls 2. And what that person is requesting is essentially a skill-only run. You know, what's the point in that other than to show off? Because that doesn't help people. Yes, I have picture-perfect dodging times and a full awareness of when the enemy's going to attack and when it's not going to attack, and I just beat it with melee weapons. You know, you try and do it, you get hit by the first hit, it all goes to tits, you try and heal, and then you die, because you don't have my experience fighting that boss. It's, you know, the complete antithesis of what a walkthrough is. But YouTube is full of comments like that, so I just kind of ignore them for the most. But this is the giant robot. He's just turned up. The only problem with this guy is not only does he take a massive beating because it's on Uber, but he also destroys a lot of the cover in the middle of the room. So you do not want to rely on the concrete, because as you can see, it does strip away to the rebar, and my gun is having fun there. But the Tesla grenades, if you throw them on him, they will stun him for a decent duration. I recommend not capitalizing like this. I recommend using it as an opportunity to charge your gun and hit him with that, because then you can save your ammo for later on, because there's going to be a lot more dudes, a lot more big dudes too, and if you're playing on the earlier difficulties, you can kind of run past a lot of these enemies, hit the checkpoints, and then get to the area where you need to go. But I do not recommend it too much on Uber, unless you know exactly how you are going to survive it. Because there's nothing worse than getting to a checkpoint and being in a bad spot, with bad life. And I'm not too sure how this game works, but I was playing Vanquish last night on God Hard mode, which is a very challenging difficulty if you've never played it. And a couple of levels, it's easier to just use the boost dodge cancelling to get the iframes, to dodge your way past enemies, to get to checkpoints, and completely skip them, because a lot of them are... There's two particular instances where this is very popular, and one of them is like endlessly spawning assholes. It's an absolute nightmare, and it's like a 2-minute level. But on one of them, when I was dashing past, I hit the checkpoint, and I was just kind of stood up there, and then I suddenly realised that the enemies were following me. And in a lot of games, when you hit a checkpoint and you get to a new zone, I don't know if it pacifies the enemies or it despawns them, but you don't generally have to worry about your back. And maybe it's because I didn't die as opposed to restarting like a proper checkpoint, but there was suddenly a ton of red dots on the radar, because the game gives you a radar, that were really interested in getting behind me, and it made for a pretty interesting firefight. So I'm not too sure if you'd have to put up with that on this game, because I haven't tried it. But this room coming up is massive, it's full of dudes, but it does have some interesting advantages for the player. The first one is these vents. The vents that you're going to see me cut now, when you're inside them, you can't seem to be shot. If the enemies come towards the vent, even if you can see their gun, they don't fire at you. It's one of those weird things. So you can utilise this to take out heavies, to take out enemies really effectively and safely. The only problem is, if they're at a distance and you can see their full body, I believe then they're able to shoot at you. But if they're up close and the you know, touching the vent pretty much, then you're completely safe. And it's a little bit confusing, but this is one of the tougher rooms on the level. You're going to see me approach it from a pretty defensive perspective, but you shouldn't be surprised, because that's how I've played the entire game. And it's just effective. So there's the heavies, there's me taking some big hits, but do you see? He was shooting me, and now he stopped. And now he's beef burger. But that guy could shoot me, could bounce in shrapnel, could do a lot of things, and he just doesn't. So I shotgun him. And one of the strategies to do this would be to get their attention to the enemies and then lure them towards these vents and then capitalise on the advantage and kill them that way. It's an effective strategy. It takes a while though, so you're not going to see me do it too often. The vents in this walkthrough are going to be safety spots if I need them. But feel free to exploit them as much as you need, because these rooms aren't very fair, guys. They're very big rooms, densely packed with enemies, and the enemies have perfect aim. So, you know, you should be taking every advantage you can. And I always find it really funny when, like, I was watching an uploader by the name of Wings of Redemption. He's kind of changed his identity on YouTube to Geordie, or Geordie something. Geordie Jordson, is it? It's kind of like a tongue twister, which is his real name, and he's making a what began as a blind let's play of this game and then became a walkthrough because he suddenly went from not knowing what was coming to he'd beaten it twice, which I really didn't understand, but you know, power to him, it's his channel. And people were complaining that he was camping, and it wasn't ironically, guys, because if you don't know this, this particular uploader makes Call of Duty videos. He's done it for a very long time, and his style is essentially a campy style. He sits behind a clip spot, and he waits for people to run past, and he kills them. And he's made an effective living doing that, and it's kind of synonymous for him. That's his style, that's how he likes to play, and he sees nothing wrong with it. You know, power to him. I hate camping, personally. But people are accusing him, without the slightest hint of humour, of camping in a single-player game against the AI on the hardest difficulty. Like, when it's that heavily biased against the player, there's no such thing as camping, guys. It's called survival. Like, if you want to rush and run around like you think you're Socrates on Call of Duty 4, you will die. It's just that simple. It takes luck and some serious hand-eye coordination to even remotely clear a room, and even then you will be so cut up and wounded that the next room might be too much for you. So it's just dumb to play it like that. There's in fact a difficulty that's designed to allow people to do that, which is the 9999 mode, just short of 1,000 life and unlimited ammo on Uber difficulty. That is your difficulty where you run around and you have fun and you go all completely crazy. This is a difficulty where you put whatever the hell is the biggest obstacle in front of you to stop every bullet that is pin precisely coming for your body. And if you do that, you'll survive. And admittedly, it doesn't make for some of the most interesting gameplay. Like right now, I'm being really defensive and cowardly because I'm afraid that I'm going to push forward, someone's going to rush me and they're going to kill me. Because that can happen really quickly on this game. And sometimes the enemies don't push you, other times they all push you. I've gone around these corners and there's been 5 of the stormtrooper guys there that have just mowed me down before I've had a chance to kill any of them. So you've got to be very careful, folks. It mitigates the frustration, because if you're careful, you're not going to be restarting, you're not going to be getting annoyed, and you're going to get past it. And it's just a case of patience. And a lot of people ask me, you know, how do you get good at so many different games? And it's not really a case of getting good at them, guys. It's learning how not to die. That's literally all it is. You know, you play something enough, and you see the code, you see the matrix, and you understand what killed you. You understand where the danger is, and you come up with a strategy or a method that alleviates whatever the danger is in the safest possible way. And if you can approach a game with that logic in mind, you can then experiment and go deeper. You can look into things like spawns, you can look into things like exploiting pathing systems and scripting, and there's a lot of fun to be had. And it's not really a higher level of play, it's just experience. And a lot of people who ask these questions, I think, are the younger generation of folks. Or maybe the older generation of folks, because there's a bit of a divide. A lot of people of an older generation of gamers don't have the time that they used to have when they were in the teens or the 20s or even the 30s. So they've got families, they've got jobs, they've got other responsibilities, other hobbies, and they don't have the same amount of hours that they could just put into a game they really liked when they were younger. So to them it probably seems a little bit more impressive than it is, because like this game, I recorded it in a single session from start to finish, and to a lot of people that seems kind of extreme, kind of over the top, but to me that's how I like to play games. And when I'm inspired to play them, like when I have a walkthrough to make, I want to play, I want to get the guide, I want to get it done as quick as I can and share it with people, because it's what excites me, it's what I enjoy. And Pads really wants to get me killed just then. And when you have the ability, or at least as I do at this moment in time, to play for an 8-hour session while watching films or watching YouTube videos or listening to podcasts and things, you're gonna be pretty sharp on games, because that's all you've done for that last 8 hours. And you might have been kind of slow and groggy at hour number 1, but by hour number 7, your shot's on point, your hands are all warmed up, and if you're still enjoying it, you're in the zone, you're on the ball. This is not even a great example of good gameplay either, folks, because I am getting torn up in this section. Because it is tricky. It is the trickiest firefight in this area, I think. But anybody who wants to get good at anything, it just involves learning from people who are better than yourself, having the humility to acknowledge that people are better than you, and seeing why they're better than you, and then just putting in the time. Like, I alluded to learning to play the guitar or learning to play the piano, where I said that you have to put the time in, which is absolutely true. But there comes a time when sometimes you need to be inspired by someone who's better than you, or directly taught by someone who's better than you, who's struggled as well and has a few shortcuts or a few tips that really helped them that might help you. And that is kind of the point of these videos in its barest fundamental essence. I make them and I show you a successful run of the game, you watch them, and then you get your own successful run at the game. And it's that kind of give and take relationship which makes it so interesting. But this right here, you're saving ammunition. You should be saving life and armor if you've played better than me. I have no idea how I got tagged this much. You know, it was just sloppy play on my part. Maybe I got a little too excited because I knew I was on the last level, and as soon as I get here, I'm not even thinking about this level. I'm thinking about the boss. Because on my first playthrough, the last boss killed me about 5 or 6 times before I got my run. And my run when I killed him was no different to any of the other runs. It's just towards the end of the fight when fire's everywhere and it's super smoky and the boss is super angry. When I ran from one corner to the other corner with him shooting at me on the run where I succeeded. Watch this for a fail. This is so close right here. So if anybody didn't see what happened just then, I didn't have any bullets in my assault rifle, in my marksman gun, so I tried to hip fire with it as I jumped to be a more difficult target to shoot, and I ended up getting caught with my pants down. So yeah, just be careful. It can end really quickly, and if you die where I just got into a bad spot, it begins the checkpoint when I entered this room before I'd killed anything. So just bear that in mind. Also something worth noting, where I recharged my gun just then, to the left is a flanking route that goes through a maintenance tunnel, but do not go down it because there is a shotgun guy waiting for you, and if you don't go down it, he does not aggro and you can kill him from behind. But thank you for watching, guys. Good luck with that gauntlet. There's not so much left after this. The next sequence is much simpler than the ones we've just done, and then it's the last boss, and then it's that Uber trophy or Uber achievement or that personal sense of gratification. So thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and as always, you take care now.